And now, a workshop of the McAllen City Commission. All workshops are open to the public in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. These workshops allow for detailed staff presentations.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll call this meeting to order. This is a workshop of the Board of Commissioners. We're here at City Hall, and today is February 26, 2024. We'll start with item number 1, presentation of questions to staff. Are there any questions related to today's agenda?
Not for me.
Not for me.
No, sir.
Okay, there being no questions. Item number 2, presentation on Vision Zero.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We've got staff that's going to have a short presentation on this item.
Mayor Pro Tem and City Commission, we have 2 items for today. One is the Vision Zero,
and one is a project on Jackson Avenue. Marlene Garza here is going to present the first one, then Rene Gonzalez will present the second item, and then we'll field any questions that you need. I'll pass it over to Marlene.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Temp and City Commissioners. Today I'll be talking about Vision Zero. Vision Zero was an item that came about a year ago to award for contract. It's a collaborative campaign and action plan aimed at helping communities achieve the goal of 0 traffic fatalities and severe injuries among all road users. The plan provides the community strategies on how to increase safety, health, and equitable mobility for all. Some of the information you'll see in the next couple of slides comes directly from a website called Vision Zero Network. Vision Zero, the approach that's taken is safe systems equals safe mobility. So we as planners and designers and you as policymakers, you'll take this plan and this plan's going to identify where the city of McAllen can improve safety on roadways. Taking that information, we'll be able to implement it and give that through signage and changes on our roads so that individual road users can benefit from these changes. And then the road users will, as they are seeing this implementation done, they will be able to make better decisions a lot easier. I'll give the example, or Rene will be talking a little bit about medians. Medians might be one of the things that the Vision Zero plan identifies for certain roadways that might have high injury rates for pedestrians, bicyclists, etc. Vision Zero Network, we are not the only city with a Vision Zero plan. There's a lot of other cities like New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago. In the state of Texas, it's Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston that have a Vision Zero plan. Every Vision Zero plan is unique to its communities. Of course, our Vision Zero plan is not going to look like Houston's or Dallas. Our Vision Zero plan is going to look different also than New York City or LA. Our public transportation system is a little bit smaller than larger cities as those. And so we're excited to see what the consultant is able to put together to help us identify what the city of McAllen needs to be working on. A little bit about the Vision Zero approach. So traditionally the way sometimes we see traffic deaths is, you know what, they happen out on the roads, nothing can be done about it. But with the Vision Zero plan, the idea is that no loss of life or injury is acceptable on our roadways. Vision Zero is possible through different ways, controlling speeds, roadway design. I know in the past maybe René's talked to you guys about roundabouts. They help control speeds, and they also help people move through the intersection a lot quicker. Although sometimes it doesn't seem like that. So those are the kind of things that we'll be looking at, maybe possibly trying to implement based on the data collected from the consultant and will be placed on the project. A little bit about our team. We, the City of McAllen, along with Able City and their subconsultant Nelson Nygaard, they're the subconsultant that is putting together all the data on crashes, roadways, what's happening on our roadways for citations. All the data is being compiled by them and is going to be presented in this report. Along with the consultant and subconsultant is the stakeholders. They'll be providing really important input on maybe what the community is looking for in order to make it safer for bicyclists and pedestrians and roadway users. Additionally, once we get to a draft plan, they'll be able to provide input and be able to see what the city is kind of putting together so that we can make this plan stronger. A little bit about the stakeholder group, people that we're going to be reaching out to and we're hoping to get input from is the bike community, business community, health and wellness advocates, neighborhood association, schools, public and private developers, and the real estate community. We want input from everyone because this plan's not just going to be for a certain group of people. It's going to impact all of us. All of us drive. We all sometimes use public transportation systems, and some of us benefit from being out there on the hike and bike trails. So it's really important for us to be hearing from these stakeholders. You'll be seeing a lot of social media posts on our Facebook and Twitter. I'm working with Xochitl to kind of get this campaign going because it is going to be, we are going to need input from everyone. A little bit about the timeline. We kicked off the project officially with the consultant in January. Right now, we're in the data collection phase. We're starting to plan everything. In March, our consultant will be visiting with us. We'll be visiting with possibly the fire department, police department, just to kind of get a feel for our community in order to best put this final draft plan together. Then in May, we will have a draft of the Vision Zero plan. In July, it'll be open for public review, city departments and the public as well. And then in August, we will bring this plan back to you in hopes for adoption. By then, we should have goals like 0 fatalities by the year 2030 or whatever that goal we decide that is applicable to our community based on the data that is provided through this report by the consultant. That's all I have. If anybody has any questions? Yes.
So what are the typical projects or what was the other word that was used? Or strategies, that's it.
Strategies.
That are implemented. Can you give me like a concrete example?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of research, kind of comparing what other Vision Zero plans from other cities look like. I'll give you the example of New York City. New York City, through this Vision Zero plan, they were able to identify what they called a suicide boulevard. And the reason why they called it that was because based on the data that was gathered, they found that a lot of injuries and fatalities were occurring at this specific location. So because they were able to identify that this is an area where people are losing their lives or getting severely injured, they were able to go in there and identify, you know what, we need to put a barrier here. You know what, we need to put additional striping, maybe change the signage, maybe put in a median. So every community approaches it differently. But those are the kind of takeaways that we're able to get from this plan. The other thing is that I actually had a meeting today with our sub-consultant and our consultant, and they said that they're going to be providing pictures of areas and intersections where they're already identifying improvements that they could see. And that's kind of going to lay out where we can make improvements. And it's not just going to be one improvement that could be done. It could be various.
Okay, so like traffic calming devices?
Yes.
And one thing that I've noticed, I've seen it in Edinburgh and I've seen it here, is the crosswalks. Instead of
Yes.
the typical two bar, 2 lines, now I guess they're the thick bar
Mm-hmm.
that are parallel along with the direction of travel rather than being perpendicular.
Yes, that's another area of concern, at least for the traffic department. One thing we've seen is that we have that traditional 2 bars that go from one side of the roadway to the other, but then you have the high visibility crosswalks where they're bars and they're either closely spaced or in some areas they're widely spaced. One thing we've seen is that when they're widely spaced, they're thick and they're spaced further apart. They don't provide that high visibility. But when they're closely spaced and they're longer, they draw more attention. So we're asking the consultant, can you provide us like a standard where we can start implementing it on our roadways and bring that safety for pedestrians, especially along the crosswalks that are in the school, like along elementary schools or middle schools. So hopefully we're going to be able to also see that in this plan, some kind of recommendation so that we could move forward.
Well, I think the bold crosswalks and also thoroughfares, where the crossings of the thoroughfares, I think is real important. I'd like to, I wanted to say a few words. I really would love to see much more participation and a focus on the city to get the neighborhood associations involved.
Okay.
The HOAs need to be we need their input. They live it, they walk it, they drive it every single day. And if we get them on board and along with our city and ourselves as elected officials, especially in our districts, I think it's major importance that since we already started and we're looking at by May coming up with a draft, we need to be on it in March and April.
Yes, and I'm glad you bring that up because our target is to do our first pop-up next week. It'll probably be towards the end of the week. And the idea with these pop-ups is we're ideally going to have one in every district, and which means that at minimum we'll have 6, but our first one will be next week. And what we're going to be doing through those pop-ups is we as staff will be out there and getting input from the community through surveys and a bunch of other information that the consultant's going to be providing from here until then. I'm going to be working with Xochitl to get those pop-ups advertised in the hopes that people will come out. We are going to be doing them in the afternoon between 5:30 to 8:30 so that we can make sure to capture those people that, work from 8 to 5.
And I know that some HOAs are more organized, more developed, and than others. But if there is a neighborhood that might not have a strong HOA, how do we get notice to that community? Because some of them are private and some of them are semi-private and some of them are public. So some, the HOAs, there are some strong ones out there, but there's neighborhoods that don't have a strong HOA. And how do we get, I know that you're saying that pop-up and it is important, but if you can get some community leaders, if you could ask us as your district representatives to say, hey, we're looking at this. Who do you know in that area? Who's in the neighborhood, so that we could, really get them engaged. If we're going to do this, that they need to be part of it.
I agree. Thank you.
That's a good point. Give us the dates on those pop-ups so that
Yes.
we're
We will.
involved in that. That'd be great.
We actually have the list of HOAs, and there's some HOAs and neighborhood associations, which is the volunteer. Ones are,
Neighborhood Watch.
is watch, but there's also a beautification kind of associations. So, yeah, I think planning should have, you guys have that.
Planning has it.
Right?
Yeah.
Edgar?
A little bit outdated, but we have that.
Yeah, let's get you updated as much as we can, and then we can send some letters, at least to the president and the board, so they can disseminate to their home.
Yep.
Awesome. We will definitely
I know
do.
we've been looking at roundabouts.
Yes.
And I went to one yesterday. I passed through one yesterday. What I saw wrong was they had like exit 1, exit 2. You start exiting, and at the block there was a light. So we were way back there. We were in exit 1 already, and we were going to get on exit 2. And I'm like, why would they put a light a block, after you get out of the roundabout? So we were in chaos. And then once you pass the light, it would go into one lane. So it was in Houston.
Oh, and use
Oh,
that.
okay.
Oh, okay.
I thought
Yeah, but it was right next to it was right next to the zoo.
I thought you were talking about Larkin,
Like
23rd.
somewhere Chiquito, no. I mean, it was Houston, but it was like a block of a light. Out of the woods.
Yes, so,
That sounds right.
That sounds almost amazing.
and I'll kind of end on this so that Rene can continue with his presentation. But one of the things that the consultant will be hopefully providing this week is a draft of our high injury network. And it's pretty much going to be a map of the entire city of McAllen. And it's going to kind of be like a heat map. Where are the hot spots where all these injuries and fatalities are occurring? And this is going to be our, pun intended, roadmap for the future. So it's exciting, and I hope to come back to present the final draft for adoption.
Sounds good.
Well, some of you are already thinking of town halls we definitely need to incorporate that and take advantage of those days.
Yes.
Yes, once we get the schedule finalized, we'll be sure to share it.
Okay.
All right, sounds good.
The next item is Jackson Road widening. This is a project that TxDOT is moving forward with. We're going to have a short presentation, but in essence, we're looking to support TxDOT not only on the project, but on the concrete median. You know, a lot of times we have discussions about medians and in a positive and not so positive way. But the bottom line is concrete medians increase mobility. They make us more efficient, and we really need to gravitate towards those improvements. So I'll hand it over. The district engineer is here. Pete, thank you for being here. If you'd like to join us up here, we'd be glad to have you. Go ahead, man.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Board of Commissioner. Rene Gonzalez, you're a transportation engineer of the city. I'm just going to have a brief summary of what the project entails, the summary of it. Any detail explanations or anything detailed, Pedro Alvarez, the district engineer from TxDOT is here, also Mr. Coxley in the back. So any questions in detail on the project itself, you feel free to go ahead and ask them. That's what they're here to support us. TxDOT approached us a couple of weeks ago in regards to the improvements of Jackson Road. And believe it or not, Jackson Road is one of the most congested roadways in Texas. It's in the top 100. That's including the large metroplex areas. You drive through there right now, peak hours, it's just highly congested, a lot of movement. Mobility, like Roy was mentioning, is almost, when it comes to a peak hours, there's almost no mobility. There's a lot of dangerous movements also. And then with the highway, Business 83, the railroad, all those parameters in there makes it a little unsafe. So TxDOT has really dove into this and really put some preliminary studies into it, and they've reached about 30% on their design already. So they've done their alternative designs on them. They've come out with their own matrix to see right-of-way takings and what the best options are to take in there. The project itself entitled the actual, the limits of the project are from SH 495 to El Rancho Road. So all along the area that we all know has a lot of commercial areas, some residential, high-density residential, the highway, like I mentioned, and all of that. So the proposal is to go from an existing 4-lane roadway with turning lanes with a very limited right-of-way of about 80 foot in some areas to about 100. So that also leaves very little room for pedestrians. So you want to travel somewhere in a bike or walk or do anything like that, it's a little unsafe because of the amount of traffic that is in there in the commercial areas, and you're very limited to put something in there to help them. So the proposal is to go to a 6-lane roadway with medians and increase the right-of-way taking. Along with the right-of-way, with the roadway itself, it's include 2 shared use pathways, about 10 foot wide, to allow people to also walk and have cyclists and give that buffer that we need. Most importantly, we mentioned and we talked and we just heard about Vision Zero. Medians, modern medians are a lot different than what we used to know about the parkways or the boulevards of the old days. Modern medians are more done to increase mobility, safety, and also, which is more important and a lot of us tend to ignore, they create access points for better access into residential areas and commercial areas. That is very important to understand because all of the models in traffic are based on how we control those movements to safely get somebody from point A to point B without having too much congestion or points of impact that are unsafe. That's the whole basis of having the median and providing that safety is the number one option of it, and create higher speed on the main lane so that people can travel faster from point A to point B at a safe velocity and have a good vision also. So when you come into an area that has too many movements, you get distracted and the potential of you crashing is higher. Whereas when you have a control access, you're more focused on where you are and you don't get distracted. So that's the whole essence of why it's important. So the other way around. Sorry about that. Like I mentioned earlier, there were several alternatives that TxDOT went over, and they selected one for with the less impact on it of right-of-way taking. And essentially, this is the project schedule on how they decide to do the project delivery on the design process and how to bring it upon the community. They will be having, they're around right now, they have selected the preferred alternative on the roadway, which is the 6 lane. The first public meeting will be on March 19, I believe, at Kelly Elementary and FAR. After that, they'll be finishing, once they get the input from the traffic, they'll be finishing the schematic. Once they get a 60% schematic, then it kicks in the environmental studies and the right-of-way and all of that. And once they get the final schematic, environmental kicks in, and then the rest of the schedule will be known. In essence, like Roy mentioned earlier, TxDOT is seeking the support of this board on as presented today. In reference to, it will be, the project is 100% TxDOT funded, right-of-way, utilities, construction administration, all of that will be funded through the Texas Department of Transportation. All they're seeking is this board's support. Do you have any questions?
Will the project require additional right-of-way acquisition? Because I'm looking at the existing typical section. It's between 80 to 120 feet, but the one that's recommended, the proposed typical, you're looking at 150 feet?
Yes. Yes, it will require.
Okay. And I guess that'll be one of the preliminary,
Yes.
aside from the schematic and
Yes.
design, that'll be one of the preliminary
Yes.
steps, right?
Yes.
How much do you anticipate in terms of acreage? Or rather, I won't even press it, but do you expect to have to?
Yeah, I can make that work.
All right, thank you, Pete. Do you expect to acquire a lot?
So
Muscle meadows, or
we'll
just
be
a little?
acquiring, on average, about 35 feet on either side of the roadway. And I think it's important to recognize that here at TxDOT, one of the things that we've been doing the last couple of years and for the near future is we're picking up the tab when it comes to the right-of-way. In the past, it was 80-20, so 20%, the local community was responsible for 20% of the right-of-way acquisition. We have developed a fund at TxDOT to help ease the quote-unquote the pain on the local community, so we will be taking full advantage of that opportunity. If we're allowed to move forward, we'll take full advantage of that before the money runs out. There's X amount of money in the budget, and once it runs out, it runs out. So to answer your question, yes, about 35 feet on either side. One of the things that we took into consideration in the preferred alternative was to utilize the right-of-way acquisition where there was least impact. In other words, if there was right-of-way that was already donated through the development process, or there was right-of-way that was of open land, those opportunities we're taking full advantage to minimize the overall cost and effect in the area.
So the second part is Jackson Road, at least from Military to Business 83, identified as a heavy cargo route?
It's an overweight, oversized.
Overweight, I'm sorry, overweight.
That is correct, from Military all the way to I-2.
Are there going to be certain standards that are, for that particular section, that are going to be higher, let's say at the intersections where you're going to have concrete aprons, I suppose?
So we are going to be utilizing our design systems, if you will,
Okay.
for that type of cargo. We are also working very closely with the communities from Mission, Madero, Mission, McAllen, FAR, San Juan, and Alto Alamo to provide a thoroughfare, which is the 365 tollway and IBTC, that will likely reroute some of this. However, there is going to be a segment of this roadway that will be affected by the overweight oversized, and we intend to design it accordingly.
Thank you, Pete, appreciate it.
How long is it going to take for this to completion?
Well, this is a $35 million project. Once we actually get started in construction, we would anticipate about 36 months. Sometimes we have an opportunity to incentivize the contractor, and so that could be as little as 30 months.
And that would be all the way to Hall's Acre in the south or not?
Yeah,
Looks like yeah, on our side, Rancho Road. So from 495 all the way to Rancho Road is around 36 months. of
Yes, sir.
construction. Extremely needed,
Yes.
as fast as possible.
Yeah, I just want to commend the city of McAllen for having a Vision Zero mindset. At
Yeah.
TxDOT, we have Mission Zero, and that is zero fatalities on Texas roadways by 2050. cutting them in half by 2035. So we are working with the local communities to promote safety and promote mobility.
Well, you know, both, because on the east side is far and on the west side is McAllen, but both communities drive that road. I mean, it is very, very used.
One thing.
Let's do it as fast as possible.
Yeah, one thing that I did want to point out, if I may, Jackson Road at the interstate has already been expanded. We spanned the entire roadway to eliminate all the, well, you know, there was a whole bunch, it was a forest of columns, concrete columns there in the past. We removed all those and spanned the entire thing to facilitate the construction for this project.
Oh, good.
Is any of the configuration going to change there on business, on Expressway Business and Jackson? Or
As far as a major configuration, no. Obviously, with the raised median, it'll facilitate and help direct the movements.
Okay.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Before I forget, one program that we've started on some of our major roadways is at the intersection to only have right turn lanes. On the schematic, I didn't see that, but do you anticipate
So-
that might be incorporated, at least at the larger intersections with the long right turn bay?
Yeah, so what we do is we take into account traffic turning volumes and things of that nature. Wherever it's reasonable and feasible to provide a right turn lane, we will incorporate to help relieve the congestion in that intersection as a whole.
Okay.
So where it's reasonable and feasible, we will look to add a right turn lane.
Very good. Which I know it can quickly add up to the hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions.
And
of
once
dollars.
again, McAllen being proactive, you all have, working with us, have installed a whole bunch of right turn lanes in the city, some on state roadways, some on city roadways, and you see operational improvements in the benefit they provide.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Steve.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Pete. Mayor, we're ready for this item, EFT convenience fees. However, our finance director is on jury duty, so we're going to ask that we table it and bring it back next meeting.
Sounds good. EFTs, I guess we're executive session?
Yes, sir.
We'll recess into executive session.
This concludes the workshop of the McAllen City Commission. Workshops are held every second and fourth Monday of the month, convening at 4 p.m. at the McAllen City Commission chamber on the third floor at McAllen City Hall.
More information.
Motorists will now be seeing flashing yellow arrow lights at major McAllen intersections.